what's up? Another time for Farm Fact Friday, and it's a gorgeous day in Hancock County. And what's even more exciting is we get to take another field trip, and oh, there's a deer. Another field trip. We're in the tractor that is pulling the grain cart, which is going to run alongside the combine. So actually, this is going to happen here shortly. So you'll see it in person. But what this allows us to do is to continue running the combine. The combine never has to leave the field or head over to the trucks to make sure, or to dump. We can do this on the run, which is super cool. So let me just flip the camera around. We've got the combine beside us. And so these two have to work in tandem as a team to make sure that all of the corn is making it into the dump cart or the grain cart and doesn't go on the ground. So this combine driver, Mr. Richard Coleman, is continuing to combine as his son Eric is driving the dump cart. So family operation, working together, and as you can tell by the back window, we've been in the fields a lot and the dust settles very quickly. So the auger is taking it from the combine to the grain cart. As soon as he's finished unloading, he'll simply move the auger back, and the dump cart can take it over to the semi or grain truck. So depending on the yield from the field, this grain cart becomes very important. So times of high yield, this grain cart operator is working constantly to keep up with all the corn that's coming off. See this happening when you're heading down country roads. So now we're heading over to the semis, which you can see. To unload this. Okay, so pretty cool, huh? And we'll show you unloading at the semis here in just a little bit. But as we head over there, I have some cool facts about corn that kind of piggyback off of what we talked about last week. So if you were with us last week or watched last week's episode, we talked about how many pounds of corn are in a bushel. So the number is 56. So 56 pounds of corn in a bushel, and interestingly enough, that will produce enough to sweeten 400 cans of pop. So if you are a pop drinker that contains corn syrup, your sweetened pop is coming from a farmer. So that's pretty cool. Also worth noting, corn is grown in 6 out of the 7 continents. So I'd love to hear your guess as to which continent does not grow corn. You can put it in the comments. And the average height of corn is 10 feet. And you might already know this, but corn in other parts of the country is called maize. So just a little bit of some fun facts about corn. And now we're unloading from the grain cart into the trailer. corn can either go to the elevator, which we sell to the elevator. We either do that by contract, well, all of it's by contract, or the other option, if people have a grain setup at their own farm, we can take it back to the farm. So corn is definitely something that is used to feed animals if there's any livestock on the farm. The other reason to take it home, if there's a drying setup, that could be one reason. If you take it to the elevator too wet, they do charge you for drying. But if you have that drying setup, you can take care of that at home. The other thing that we think about as farmers is cash flow, and being able to store it at home and then haul it to the elevators at a later time provides us that cash flow throughout the year. When it's like when it's winter time and there's no crops to take off and take to the elevator, this is what could supplement that cash flow, which is important. And then we just have to be careful with how wet corn is. The reason for a certain amount of moisture is we don't want that corn to mold, as that would be a disaster trying to get it out of the bin. And not only that, it becomes much less useful. So we want to make sure that we take care of the crop that we work so hard to raise. So, okay, with that, let's go back to the idea of what we did earlier when the corn was just being planted and we started to see it growing. We talked about how things pollinated and really the growth and the goal of that stalk of corn to produce ears. So now that we're combining it, let's look at the different parts of the actual corn plant itself. We got that right. So, thank you. Okay, so this is your ear of corn, and if you've ever bought sweet corn, you know some of these parts probably, but we'll just review it for everyone. So the outside that tightly protects the ear, this is your husk. So, of course, we don't want the husk. This is what will come out of the back of the combine. And then what you'll see at the top or coming out, this is your silk. And this is already fallen off. But as you can see, it turns a brown color. When we did this earlier, it was more of a silky, well, it's called silk, but it had more of a clear kind of color. And if you remember, during pollination, each silk that's pollinated creates a kernel. So that's really cool. And then there's your ear of corn and all these kernels. So what the combine does itself is it's separating the kernels from all this other organic matter. So I picked this up off the ground. It didn't fully get taken off by the combine, but basically you're getting kernels of corn, which is much harder than, say, your sweet corn. So there's your kernels of corn. And then what comes out of the back is all that husk, all the silk, and then you're left with your corn cob. So you'll see this in the ground, or on the ground rather, and all of it stays there and it gets worked into the soil, which is great organic matter. It really goes into the nutrients of the soil and proper nutrition for future crops that come into this field. It also plays a part into that crop cycle of what is planted next. So super cool things that go on the farm, especially this time of year when we can basically harvest everything that we've sown earlier in the spring. So I hope you guys have enjoyed kind of tying it all together from when we started in the summer. We talked about some things related to bushels and test weight last week, and now we've got the corn coming off. So With that, have a great rest of your Friday. It's supposed to be a gorgeous weekend here in Ohio, so I hope you have plans to enjoy some time outside, safely of course. And with that, we'll check you back next week for another Farm Fact Friday. Take care.